Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, all right, today is the official start of college football season. Today is week 0. There's 3 or 4 games coming on TV tonight. I did a preview on those videos yesterday, but I still have a few team previews that I've got to get wrapped up, and I'm going to try to do it this weekend. So there'll be a series of videos posted over the next couple of days, today and tomorrow. I'm going to try to get 3 or 4 out today. I'm going to try to get 3 or 4 out tomorrow and wrap up these previews so that on Monday I can start the normal routine of what I do during the season. Monday will be my first top 10. So I'll have a top 10 list on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday will all be preview and matchup videos of games coming up next weekend. On Friday, I'll make my Georgia video, and then, of course, I make videos at different points during the day on Saturdays during the season, reactions to games, things like that. So, anyway, you'll see this same intro. I'm not going to re-record this intro for all these preview videos I'm doing this weekend, so you'll see the same intro over and over again over the next, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 videos, and we're going to preview as many teams as I can get done over the next 2 days. Enjoy. Okay, here we go now. 2018 college football team preview for the University of Central Florida. Of course, a team that everyone knows after last year. They went undefeated in the regular season, won their conference championship game, got left out of the playoffs. They're a non-Power 5 team. I wasn't surprised they got left out. I think anyone who's been following college football for any amount of time, you really shouldn't have been surprised that they got left out. Now, you can be upset and disappointed or mad that they got left out or think they should have been in based on their record or whatever else. But you shouldn't have been surprised that they didn't. And I doubt any non-Power 5 will ever get into the 4-team playoff the way it's set up right now. But they had a great year, like I mentioned, undefeated, win the conference, New Year's Six Bowl against Auburn, ended up winning that game. So undefeated season, a great season for Central Florida, proclaimed themselves national champions, threw themselves a parade, gave themselves rings, and I've been over that. I've got no problem with them doing that. The best you can absolutely hope to do as a non-Power 5 program is what Central Florida did last year, so I have no problem with them heaping all those praises, trophies, rings, banners, whatever, on themselves. Great season for Central Florida. Scott Frost gone now, though, right? He leaves, goes back home to Nebraska. Big expectations up there for him. But what does that mean for Central Florida? Was Central Florida a really, really talented team, or was Scott Frost a really, really good coach? Was it both? Was it one or the other? He's out. Josh Heupel is in. Another offensive-minded guy. The offense should keep clicking this year. Now, they do lose 5 starters from both sides of the ball, so they've got some retooling to do. I wouldn't call it a rebuilding year necessarily, although 5 starters from both sides of the ball, not easy to replace. On top of that, a new coaching staff, right? They're going to be the favorite again in the AAC. They're ranked in most preseason polls. I've seen them anywhere from 21 to 25, somewhere in there. So expectations high again in Central Florida. Who do they have coming back? Mentioned losing 5 on offense, 5 on defense, but they've got some key pieces coming back, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Defense may be a different story, but I think the offense is going to keep on humming along like it was. They get Milton back, their quarterback. If you haven't heard this guy's name by now, this guy is the real deal as a true dual threat. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in America, period. Period. Super athletic, can run around, can extend plays with his legs, can run if you need him to. But this guy is an elite passer. An elite passer, okay? I mean, listen to some of these stats this guy had from last year. Top 10 in almost every single passing category, okay? Second in America in passing efficiency, just behind Baker Mayfield. So this guy is not just an athletic quarterback that runs around and makes everything happen with his feet. This guy can beat you with his arm. This guy is a legitimate dual threat quarterback. And the real deal, he's going to win a lot of games again this year without question. Wide receiver, you lose your number one wide receiver, Smith. He left early to go to the NFL. Snelson will be the man this year. He was sort of the number 2 last year. He'll step up into that role. I doubt you miss much at the wide receiver position this year versus what you have last year. You got 2 young guys, sophomores, Davis and Williams, and you brought a transfer in from Ole Miss. Of course, it was a mass exodus from Ole Miss because of the probation. Michigan got a quarterback. Florida got a wide receiver. You got a wide receiver. It was like the Oprah show. Ole Miss was giving everybody players for free. And they don't have to sit out a year because they got waivers because of the trouble Ole Miss got in. Tight end, another early departure from the NFL off of last year's team. But you bring another transfer in, this one from Wisconsin. He should step right in and fill that role without a problem. So UCF is gone, but you can already sort of see the effect that Scott Frost had there. And this is where a good coach that has an elite season like Scott Frost had, even though he left, can impact a program positively in the future going forward, right? If UCF wouldn't have had the year they had last year with Scott Frost, there's no way they get these players from Ole Miss and Wisconsin to transfer there. It just doesn't happen. Those 2 players would have went elsewhere, right? So you'll be fine, I think, again, at the tight end position with this guy from Wisconsin. Now, your offensive line, if there's going to be a question mark about your offense this year outside of coaching and play calling, which, of course, is changing with a new coaching staff, it's going to be on the offensive line. You lose several key pieces off of that offensive line. Now, having an athletic, dynamic quarterback like Milton can make offensive line issues less of a problem. So we'll see how that pans out going forward this year. Now, defense, I mentioned, not as rosy of a picture on the defensive side of the ball as it was on offense. Of course, you lose Shaquem, I hope I'm saying that right, Shaquem Griffin. Everybody fell in love with this guy at the end of last year, right? He's missing a hand, started for Central Florida, was a standout player, ended up getting drafted. I believe he's with the Seattle Seahawks. And I can't think of anybody who's not rooting for this guy, right? You want to see this guy make it. He's gone. It's going to be hard to replace his production. It's going to be even harder to replace the intangibles that he provided to Central Florida's defense. Somebody like that is just an inspiration to people around him, isn't he? It's going to be hard to replace that. It's sort of like Georgia losing Roquan Smith. Georgia's got some talent at the inside linebacker position that they can put where Roquan Smith used to line up. But there's nothing Georgia can do to replace that leadership they got from him. Same sort of thing I think you're going to run into with Shaquem Griffin being gone this year. You also lose an elite cornerback, Hughes, early to the NFL. So he's gone now. The good news with Hughes is the rest of your defensive backfield returns. So hopefully those 3 or 4 guys will be a little bit better than they were last year, and you won't notice much of a difference with the loss of Hughes in terms of your play from your defensive backfield. Defensive coordinator, Randy Shannon. Where do we know that name from, though? Oh, yeah, it used to be at the U. Yeah, we'll see Uncle U again. Don't worry about that. Yeah, don't worry about that. Defensive line, that's going to be the question mark for this defense. You lose some key players there. Not sure depth and talent behind that is going to be able to be as good or productive as what you had at that position across the front last year. Linebacker, even though you lose Shaquem Griffin, who, like I said, from a leadership perspective, I don't think you can replace that. You got this other guy. I don't think I wrote his, did I even write his name down? Is it Jasinski or Jawinski? I didn't write it down. Anyway, he actually led the team in tackles last year. So you lose Griffin, but I think you'll be okay at linebacker. All of your defensive secondary is back, minus Hughes. And defensive line, you got to figure that out. Linebacker, you'll be okay. Anyway, that's sort of what you're looking like heading into 2018. You know the routine. I'm going to put the schedule up on the screen. We'll go through it game by game, and we'll see if Florida can, or Central Florida can repeat the magical undefeated season from last year. All right, you start out on the road at UConn. Never good to start out on the road, especially when you got a new coaching staff, right? Good news is you got a returning quarterback, and he's really, really good. I just don't think this is going to be much of a problem for Central Florida, even though it's on the road week 1. You got a lot of pieces back. I didn't even mention you guys' running back situation, I don't think, but you're fine there too. You'll win this game without a problem even. I don't even know why I'm hesitating there, to be honest. Come back home and play South Carolina State. What are they, the 3rd best team, 4th best team maybe in South Carolina? You got Clemson. You got the Citadel, what beat South Carolina a couple of years ago. Clemson, Citadel. I guess then it's between South Carolina and South Carolina State for 3rd best team in South Carolina. You'll whip them without a problem. First home game, you'll probably be raising whatever banners it is you guys decided to go with for your season last year, whether it's a national title banner or whatever. The crowd will be rowdy. You'll get a huge win there. You go on the road, play a Power 5 team, North Carolina. Hard for one of these lower classification teams to play up to a Power 5 team. That's the bad news. Good news is, you really couldn't have picked a worse Power 5 team, could you? Unless you picked Tennessee, maybe. North Carolina was terrible last year. I think they won 3 games, only 1 game in the ACC. And then they've had some off-season issues, hadn't they? They got, I don't know, 10 or 11 players have gotten in trouble for selling their shoes, which may or may not be ridiculous, but the point is it's against the rules. They did it. So they got 10 or 11 guys that are going to be suspended. Not sure how many will be suspended week 3. I believe they're staggering the suspensions. So instead of like all 10 or 11 players being suspended for the first game or the first 2 games or whatever, they're spreading it out. So they'll probably have some guys suspended here for this game. I think you go on the road and get the win there at UNC. So you're sitting at 3-0. Now here's a good game here. Now this is gonna be a good game. Central Florida at home against FAU. Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has done, or is in the process of doing at FAU, what Scott Frost did at Central Florida. What was FAU's record in 2016? 3-9, I believe. Lane Kiffin comes in last year, gets them to double-digit wins, high-flying offense. Lane Kiffin, regardless of what you think about him, which he's an immature nitwit, really, he's an offensive genius. I think they were 8th in the nation in points, FAU or something like. Anyway, this is going to be a great game here, and really, this is a toss-up game. They've got the advantage in terms of coaching consistency, right? I think you beat them, though. I really do. I think you get the win. You're sitting at 4-0. But really, this is a great. I guarantee you, this will be one of the most watched games of the week. At least it should. I don't have the entire week 4 schedule in front of me, like what other games are on that day or whatever. But this should be one of the most watched. This will be one of the funnest games to watch all year. I'm excited for that one, and I've got you walking away with a W, sitting at 4-0. Now you get a Power 5 team at home, Pittsburgh. I think they beat you. Pittsburgh's not an elite team by any means, but they're better than what people think they are. Again, this will be a close one too, but I'm going to give you a loss there, and I now have you sitting at 4-1. You could beat Pitt, though. You really could. You could beat Pitt. But I'm going to... Listen, you can't run around all last year talking about how Scott Frost is one of the greatest coaches in America, and Scott Frost this and Scott Frost that, and then not expect anything to be different when he leaves. I just don't believe that. If he's that good of a coach, then that has to show up somewhere, and I think that shows up here against Pitt, and you take the loss. Home at SMU, you'll get a win there. On the road at Memphis, I'm giving you a win there. I would also put this game in the dangerous category, though. Not that Memphis is an elite team, but you got to play them there. And Memphis, one of those teams that I don't know. It seems like every once in a while when you're watching ESPN during the football season, right? You see something scroll across the bottom and it'll say Memphis 62, whatever team they're playing, 30 or something. And one of those teams just you're like, what? How do you score 60 points? I think you'll beat them, but just keep an eye on it. East Carolina, terrible team last year. What has happened to East Carolina? They were on their way up a few years ago, weren't they? There was even some talk about East Carolina possibly being looked at to join either the ACC or the SEC during the next round of expansion. you can forget that. They've done fallen off the map now. They're just not a good team. You have to play them on the road. Won't matter. You'll get a win. So you're still sitting here at with just the one loss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1 with the one loss to Pitt, taking you into your bye week. You come out of that, you got a string of home games here. Temple, Navy, Cincinnati. I did the Navy preview. I think you beat Navy. Nothing bad to say about Navy, though. God bless those guys. But I think you'll get the win. It's at home. Same thing with Temple and Cincinnati. Not very good teams. Forget Scott Frost. They just don't have the talent even that a Central Florida has. I think you win those 3 home games in a row. And then one of the most exciting games of the entire college football last year was Central Florida at home against South Florida. This thing went back and forth down to the wire. How many touchdowns were scored in the last 5 minutes of that game? It was 3 or 4, something like that. I mean, it was up and down the field. I forget the final score, but it was something like 49-42 or 42-35. I mean, it was a great, great game. I don't expect anything less this year. Again, this is going to be a great game. You have to play them on the road this year. Again, don't tell me how great Scott Frost is and then say it doesn't matter that you don't have him. I think you lose to South Florida. That could, listen, both of these games I have you losing, you could win. So I could see you going 12-0 again. I'm going to stick with 10-2 though. I think that's the most likely record for you this year. I have your losses at home to Pitt and on the road at South Florida. I mean, a road game right down the road, really, but still, South Florida, that's in Tampa, isn't it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're in Orlando, aren't you? I don't know. Yeah, you are, somewhere roundabouts. Anyway, I have you at 10-2 with only 1 conference loss, though, so chances are you'll make the conference title game again. And listen, it's possible you make a New Year's Six Bowl again. I don't know if you could do it with, I don't think you could do it with 2 losses. It's possible because of your reputation, you could do it with 1 loss if you then turned around and won the conference, you know. So you'd be sitting at 11-1, 12-1. It's possible you make another New Year's Six Bowl. If you go undefeated, you're definitely making another New Year's Six Bowl. So a great season again, I think, for UCF. I've got you at 10-2. Most likely winning your conference again would be my guess. But anyway, that's it. The Central Florida preview.